This is City Planner Masters, where I take you through an urban planning master's degree and you learn exactly what a city planner learns. Here we have a picture of Central Station and Elizabeth Street, Sydney, Australia. It is considered such an absolute design failure of an intersection that police are often called out to manage crowds. As we progress through this module, we will revisit this and many design failures so we can better understand design excellence. So, why is it important to implement standards of design excellence? Well, first of all, it's subjective. Aesthetic debates are notoriously difficult to settle. Here's three projects as I talk and show you. I'd like you to think about ranking them based on their design excellence from best to worst. The first one is Fit for a King, the Prince Charles experimental city that is proving critics wrong. This is Prince Charles' experimental town, Poundbury. It occupies a 400-acre site and houses about 3,800 people with 2,000 jobs created. By 2025, Poundbury is expected to have 6,000 residents and 2,500 homes, with 35% being affordable housing. The project, initiated in 1989, has become influential in British urban planning and is praised for incorporating seven key urban planning concepts. The first concept is traditional architectural style. Poundbury's architecture is inspired by traditional styles, diverging from the modernist and post-war trends in urban architecture. This emphasis on classical design aims to create a timeless aesthetic and foster a sense of continuity with historical architectural traditions. The next is mixed use development. The town integrates residential, commercial, and industrial buildings within close proximity. This approach contrasts with the segregation of uses typical in modern urban planning and is intended to reduce the need for transportation and encourage a vibrant community life. The next is human scale design. Poundbury is designed with a focus on human scale rather than automobile scale. Buildings and streets are scaled to be more walkable and comfortable for pedestrians, creating a more intimate and accessible urban environment. Next is community focus. The layout and design of Poundbury prioritizes community interaction. Public squares, shared spaces, and the arrangements of buildings are all planned to encourage social interaction and foster a strong sense of community among residents. The next is environmental sustainability. Sustainable practices are a key aspect of Poundbury's design. This includes the use of local materials in construction and the integration of green spaces throughout the town. This one's quite interesting, and it's the absence of road signage. Uniquely, Poundbury minimises the use of road signage. This is part of an effort to slow down traffic and prioritise pedestrian safety and comfort, making the streets more people friendly, because there can be a lot said that is distracting while you're driving with signs and billboards everywhere. The next is diversity in housing. Poundbury includes a range of housing types and prices, with a significant proportion dedicated to affordable housing. This diversity aims to create an inclusive community with a mix of demographics. As of recent data, Poundbury has shown a mix of developments in property prices and community satisfaction. The average property price in Poundbury is £440,000, which is higher than the UK average. In 2023, property prices in Poundbury increased by 4.1% from the previous year, though the total property sales decreased significantly from 100 in 2022 to 36 in 2023. The most expensive property type in Poundbury is detached houses, with an average price of £720,000, followed by a semi-detached and then terraced houses. Flats are the most affordable option, with an average price of £293,000. The next project is Our Mere, dubbed the City Plan for Greatness. Located 4 metres below sea level, Feverland was entirely reclaimed from the sea. This area offers breathtaking views of vast landscapes, captivating land art, and modern polder cities. A polder is a low-lying tract of land that forms an artificial hydrological entity enclosed by embankments known as dikes. In this town, one can find innovative design buildings that are constructed and nature is transformed into works of art. and the stunning combination of urban and natural environments, one can then witness how even the wildest natural landscapes can be shaped by human hands. And for outdoor lovers, Feverland offers wetland areas and national parks that are perfect for a day of hiking or bird watching. Am I selling this place enough to get you to buy yet? So let's look at some features on the guided map. The project has a bridge and rail network coming in from the Amsterdam metro area, and the first thing you notice is Aalmeer Beach. At first impression, the layout appears to be something you might find in a Miami suburb in America. Lots of waterways and canals, parks, sprawling neighborhoods. However, there is a focus on strong public transportation, cycling, and with a metro cutting through the middle. There are some attractions to invite tourists, such as the Wave Theatre, which is housed around the town centre, and further out there is a nature walk with outdoor art. I'll let you judge whether you feel this project has borrowed heavily from American inspiration or not. The third project is Seaside in Florida, a project built almost entirely on the shore. Seaside's urban layout, street design, and elements can be found in most American and European small towns. However, it's the distinctive front porches and native vegetation that set it apart and defined its Northwest Florida identity. The combination of local and widespread features makes Seaside an inspiration almost impossible to duplicate. Seaside streets were designed with pedestrians in mind. Their narrowness forces cars to slow down, increasing the safety of those on foot, while brick paving creates a comfortable surface to tread on. In addition, a grid of sandy footpaths behind and between the cottages links the entire town to make traversing it more manageable. Seaside has always valued its downtown area since its establishment. All of its residence properties are conveniently located within 5 minutes of the town centre, allowing residents to walk to their daily necessities and leisure activities with ease. Seaside's houses are different from one another, but by using similar building forms and materials, they speak a common language. Adherence to indigenous materials and to the region's building tradition gives the town coherence and a strong sense of place. By design, Seaside has no private front lawns and only native plants, no sod, and used in the yards. This plan makes for an environmentally friendly landscape with no herbicides and pesticides, no underground irrigation systems, and no intrusive lawnmowers. So now that you have seen all three designs, let's head to the comments section and let me know which one is your favorite by design and why. There will be a poll in the community tab, or you can leave a comment on this video. Now let's head into exploring the complexities of design excellence and the challenges of implementing it. The issue of legislating design excellence or preventing design disasters is a difficult one, as illustrated by a recent comparison of development codes. While it is relatively easy to create codes that provide a set of accepted materials, facade treatments, and porch dimensions, this code-based approach has been criticized for limiting creativity, innovation, and diversity. The new urbanist approach, in particular, has been accused of prioritizing quasi vernacular built form at the expense of urban design excellence. While the community wide master plan can provide a sense of certainty for developers, it may also undermine creative solutions to specific problems. While many debates around urban design focus on issues of compatibility, such as ensuring that adjacent buildings have similar heights and bulks, this alone does not guarantee coherence or preserve the local character of an area. Finding the right balance between creative solutions and community wide master plans is crucial to achieving design excellence. To understand design excellence, it is important to look at design failures, as sometimes it's best to learn to do things right by seeing the wrong way. This is Central Station and Elizabeth Street in Sydney. Crossing it in almost any direction from Sydney Central Station is an ordeal, but on the east side, the voyage across Elizabeth Street is such a crush of bodies that police are sometimes deployed to manage the crowd. There are 3 crossing points that are missing, says Benjamin Driver, a senior urban designer at Hill Thallis Architecture. It squashes hundreds of people at one time between 2 columns. That, to him, is a design urban mistake 101. The solution to this interchange is to give back a lane to pedestrians to fit them on the sidewalks, better time traffic lights with a diagonal pedestrian lights phase as shown with the yellow arrows. And now next is Melbourne Montague Street Bridge, which is famous for trucks and buses that are underestimating their vehicle height. ABC Melbourne sums it up simply: the bridge is too low, or explains it another way: it is a street that frequently bears trucks that are too high. The bridge is 3 meters or 9.8 foot. There's even a website called How Many Days Since Montague Street Bridge Has Been Hit.com, and currently, let's have a look, it is long overdue. The obvious solution is to lower the road. The other is to increase the bridge. All very expensive solutions that require closure for months. The Melbourne Age calls it a problem too hard. Another article calls the bridge pure evil. The task for an urban planner is to ask the question: is the bridge the problem or its users? There is a gobsmacking 26 signs to warn drivers and also height detection gantries which blare a sound prior to entry, yet still vehicles get stuck. The Melbourne Age says the solution is to fix the users through steep fines and criminal offences. A longer term solution is closing the road and encapsulating the area as part of a green city infrastructure master plan. What do you think should be done? The next design failure is on a larger scale than an intersection or a bridge, and it is Brisbane's noisy and ugly infrastructure. A senior lecturer at University of Queensland said that any Brisbane street in which the road bed is wider than the bordering buildings are tall is an example of terrible urban design. They create a sense of streets being barren, she says, which makes them simply unpleasant to walk on. Closer to the centre, an example is, sadly, Stanley Street, a popular street. I say sadly because this street is lined with charming old buildings, shops, and cafes. It's a lively reminder of the city's history. Yet the roadbed is overpowering, too wide compared to the height of the buildings. She also says that this could have been reduced by creating a two-way bike path along one side of Stanley Street with a green strip. Other than that, there is the small matter of the Pacific Motorway interchange itself. To the west, Stanley Street is bordered by that spaghetti bowl of the Pacific Motorway interchange. That type of noisy and ugly infrastructure has no place in a city centre, let alone right next to the city's most attractive parks and two major hospitals. While a whole city's infrastructure is difficult to fix, lessons can be learnt, and having bottom up master plans to fix the city is the best solution. And the final urban design is the city of Perth, and the city built around a river with intense sea level rises. The Australian Urban Design Research Centre says that in Perth we are currently designing apartment blocks around the river that are literally 1.2 metres above water level. They are already needing to pump out those basements. That is locking in a vulnerability to sea level rise. We have many train stations in Perth that are effectively designed by transport planners, not urban designers, which means you have a generic rail station in the middle of freeways that are not connected to urban activities. He points to the stations along the Kawana Highway and the Mitchell Freeway. They are essentially transit hubs where urban design is an afterthought. Train stations are often in the middle of freeways because it's easy. In the end, it doesn't really leverage great connection to the city. Urban design is managed differently in regulatory and discretionary systems. Regulatory systems clearly spell out requirements with the aim of development control. Discretionary systems, on the other hand, rely on case law and planners' judgment instead of clear-cut rules. Australian cities use a combination of both approaches, leading to a diverse range of strategies for ensuring urban design excellence. However, the debate surrounding planning reform and the need for quicker approvals in Australian cities may reflect these different strategies. Calls for clarity and certainty from local governments can be ambiguous, as they often seek to outline what community residents will find acceptable. Developers and design professionals, such as architects and engineers, argue that explicit regulatory expectations can hinder creative solutions for complex development sites.
Such systems are noted for their flexibility, their lack of certainty, and the trust they place in professional planners who advise on and the politicians who take the decisions and utilize this discretion. Design is one such material consideration in a discretionary system, but one that has assumed greater importance over time.
So, where does this standard for design ultimately come from? The answer isn't from one person, but rather a variety of stakeholders, and the largest group being that of stakeholders is the community. If a community desires to hold developers, residents, and outside agencies to high urban design standards, they must first pursue those aspirations with consistency and coherence. Design quality should be an expectation for all development. An excellent example of this is seen in Portland, Oregon, where the Urban Design Studio was established to lead community design workshops and develop and enforce urban design guidelines. This input from citizens played a crucial role in achieving the city's urban design goals. So, what is this Portland Urban Design Team anyway? It is an agency that works directly with the community on citywide projects that they follow these design principles. 1. Make places for people. 2. Strengthen connections. 3. Enhance what is already there. 4. Embrace the future. 5. Lead by example. And 6. Make it happen. But are these all just jargon words? How do they actually do these? They do it through exploring and developing potential design approaches with collaborators, creating urban design concepts and policy direction. They produce the urban design guidelines, and they assist and advise planning projects throughout the city. They also engage design professionals, institutions, and community groups, as well as apply visual and graphic technology to illustrate and communicate concepts to all stakeholders. Some of the recent projects in Portland by this team include a jaw update to the city's design guidelines DOZA, the West Portland Town Centre Plan, and the Lower SE Rising Area Plan. Perhaps the most notable recent achievement by the urban design team is the Green Loop, which proposes a continuous pedestrian and bike path around the Wilmanetta River, the route chosen by Sunday Parkways in 2108. This is a much better solution than a few urban planners making all the decisions, albeit though a larger group of participants can also more likely end up in disagreements. So how can we develop broad, substantive design principles for our cities? The first is through enabling function. When it comes to design review, the aesthetic control of new buildings often takes center stage in public discourse. However, design review should include a comprehensive analysis of how form enables function, with a focus on resolving problems rather than masking them. This approach should encompass critical design elements such as the public realm, the relationship to context, and sustainability considerations. Urban design concepts such as amenity, accessibility, resilience, and community vitality should be reflected in design principles, including permeability, mixed uses, legibility, and adaptability. This broad approach to design review ensures that new developments contribute positively to the built environment. And the second is through permeability, as we said, and the facade of the buildings that align the street, whether skyscraper or a small building. One such example of this facade's bad design to design excellence in just a few years is the Crapo building in Bay City, Michigan. A $12 million redevelopment took the building from a cheese grater appearance to a facade that matched the erector's character. The multi-purpose space is now used for eating, commercial, office, and residential. It may just be one building, but one building can be the domino that starts the fall of the other buildings going from poor design to excellence. Let's look at one interesting design brief proposed by the American Urban Development Team, proposing that parking garages can easily become housing. In terms of converting a garage into a residential structure, like an apartment complex, there are key design elements which must be integrated from day one to support adaptive reuse. This includes adequate floor-to-floor height for living space and the associated mechanical and/or electrical infrastructure. And in the event that a city would need more parking in the short term, those high ceilings could be converted into a double-stack parking lot, especially for the residents or people visiting nearby businesses. So to ensure these designs achieve excellence, fairness, efficiency, and effectiveness must be implemented into the review processes. How do we know we've been doing more than arguing about taste in urban design reviews? A back and forth between neighbours and the city of Seattle doomed this 12-story, 200-unit building that you see. An office building is now planned for this site. To understand the costs of this process, consider Seattle, where the housing researcher Dan Ballett undertook a comprehensive analysis of design review, which applies to almost all multi-family development in the city. The city's design review board did things like postpone the approval of a 400-unit transit-orientated development where 168 subsidized homes because they didn't like the color. The presence of a ground floor daycare, the shape of the facade, and the ground floor residential units made them angry. A passive house project, 6 stories, 45 units, ultra low energy use, was required to attend a third meeting after the board asked for more bricks in the facade, though it eventually approved the building without the bricks. 19 months after the builders first applied. Just shocking, isn't it? The list goes on. Similar standards in the city's historic districts was calculated that Seattle needed more than 1,000 new homes over a period of few years, and because time is money, driven up the cost of the ones that did get built. This graph from CABE shows you the sweet spot and the crossover of cost analysis. There is a significant difference in the efficacy of design review that occurs early on in the development of a proposal and one that occurs in the final stages of the proposal. Changes made in the early stages are much less costly than those made once all the elements are in place. Let's finish off by seeing how local planning policies hold design accountable, but at the same time can exclude design
You
excellence.
often hear commissioners channel the user-friendly language of the city employed by Jane Jacobs, rather than the jargon of the academy. You hear about a sense of place and the human scale, harmony, context, neighborhood character. Mostly you hear the eager, constructive approach of metal management, diktats from people who feel compelled to demonstrate the worth of their own positions through constant engagement.
Looking at the city of Fremantle in Australia, I have taken section 1.13 of Local Planning Policy 2.5 and it is very explicit right down to the colour of what is acceptable. 1.13 says where it is not possible to determine the original colour scheme, paint colour selection shall be consistent with the following principles. As you can see, the policy outlines everything from dark colour windows to dark tone awnings and verandas. While this is good for continuity and character, it can hinder design and blow out costs and construction lengths. The policy even provides specific requirements for building materials such as the blend of the building, that the base colour should be light, and that masonry brick wall construction will not be approved. Fremantle Council mandates for traditional materials such as structural, like stone, brick and timber, cladding, weatherboard or corrugated iron, and its roofing to be galvanized iron and colour bond. In neither case of the building policy, there is no rationale provided. There may be good reasons, such as preserving heritage character, but without an explicit justification, how could someone argue for an exception or an appeal to a decision? What are the substantive principles or design values that underpin them? Furthermore, how is the community's vision articulated in these detailed rules? On several dimensions, Punter's principles, which we talked about earlier for effective design review and guidance, are absent from this policy.
The concept of the public welfare is broad and inclusive. The values it represents are spiritual as well as physical, aesthetic as well as monetary. It is within the power of the legislature to determine that the community should be beautiful as well as healthy, spacious as well as clean, well-balanced as well as carefully patrolled.
So let's head back to our 3 cities. Here they are again. Head now over to the Community tab and vote on which one you feel meets design excellence. And don't forget to catch up on the previous 4 modules in the playlist and subscribe to ensure you don't miss Module 6. You'll be an honorary city planner before you know it.